But first, allow me to introduce you to the new face of hypocrisy, hysteria, feigned moral outrage inside the Democratic Party. That would be Maryland Senator Chris Van Hollen. Now, when Joe Biden allowed an estimated, 12+ million unvetted illegal immigrants to pour into our country, including known terrorists, murderers, rapists, cartel members, gang members, Van Hollen did nothing and he said nothing. When Maryland, a mother of 5, Rachel Morin, was raped brutally, murdered brutally by an illegal immigrant from El Salvador on a Maryland hiking trail, Van Hollen could only be bothered to release a short written statement to a news outlet. When 20-year-old Maryland woman Kayla Hamilton was raped and murdered in her own Maryland home by another illegal immigrant from El Salvador, Chris Van Hollen expressed zero public outrage. But now that a citizen from El Salvador, not Maryland, who entered our country illegally and was accused of assaulting his own wife and accused of our own federal government under 2 administrations of violent gang activity, now that this illegal immigrant has been deported back to his home, all of a sudden, Chris Van Hollen is all up in arms. He has found his voice. He is outraged. In the past 48 hours, Van Hollen has rushed in front of every microphone, every camera he could find, giving one impassioned plea after another, vowing to rescue and bring back to America this illegal immigrant that got deported. And today, Chris Van Hollen flew to El Salvador for the dumbest, most pointless political stunt in recent history. We'll let you decide. Take a look.
I'm here at the airport. I'm about to board my flight for San Salvador. The goal of this mission is to let the Trump administration, to let the government of El Salvador know that we are going to keep fighting to bring Abrego Garcia home. I just landed at the airport in San Salvador a little while ago. As I've said before, the goal of my visit is to talk to people here about the release of Abrego Garcia. And I won't stop trying, and I can assure the president, the vice president, that I may be the first United States senator to visit El Salvador on this issue, but there will be more, and there will be more members of Congress coming.
I tend to doubt it, but by the way, if he is successful, maybe he can invite him to live with him. It's no surprise Van Hollen left empty-handed. He couldn't even get a phone call with this illegal immigrant, much less secure his release from an El Salvador jail. But Chris Van Hollen is still vowing to, quote, bring him home. Good luck with that. Now, Chris, he is home. He is not a Maryland man like you and every other Democrat and everyone in the state-run legacy media mob is claiming. He's not an American. He's not your constituent. He was not in our country legally, according to a report, John Solomon. He even admitted to police that he entered our country illegally. In other words, you're a lawmaker, right? Didn't follow our laws, didn't respect our borders or our sovereignty. He had no right to be here. And you know who should still be here, safe and sound, in your state of Maryland? That would be Kayla Hamilton and Rachel Morin. But you didn't lift a finger for Rachel or her family or anyone in your state or anyone in this country to protect them from the likes of those illegals that murdered them or are involved with them. And Chris Van Hollen, well, couldn't be bothered with their safety and security. To be honest, he's barely said anything at all about these 2 victims of illegal immigration. He might not even know who they are. Chris Van Hollen is a disgrace to the entire state of Maryland. Frankly, to the entire country. You know, this performative art is just a joke. He's lying. He's grandstanding. It's frankly repulsive. He should be ashamed of himself. Better yet, maybe he should take some time and listen to Rachel Morin's mother and reevaluate his entire political career. Here's what she said on our show last night. Take a look. Did you ever get a call from Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Alejandro Mayorkas or your Senator Van Hollen, who made a big deal about he's going to go to El Salvador and bring home this one illegal from El Salvador, who Democrats are saying had no business being sent back to his home country? Did they ever call you? And what are your thoughts on your senator going to bat for this illegal? But did he ever say anything to you and your family about your loss? To ever call you, ever take the time to be with you?
No, actually, I'm very angry. I'm actually outraged, but I'm too sad at the moment to show anger at the same time. He did not call our family. He did not give condolences. There was no action on the Democratic Party in any way, from Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Mayorkas, anyone here in Maryland, none of the senators did anything to help search for the murderer of my daughter.
Now, in case the senator did miss our show, only hours ago, Patty Morin had this to say at the White House briefing with Karoline Leavitt, and Karoline will also join us later in the show. Take a look.
Why are we not protecting the American citizens? It's just common sense. Why are we not protecting our children? And to have a senator from Maryland who didn't even acknowledge or barely acknowledged my daughter and the brutal death that she endured, leaving her 5 children without a mother and now a grandbaby without a grandmother, so that he can use my taxpayer money to fly to El Salvador to bring back someone that's not even an American citizen. Why does that person have more right than I do, or my daughter, or my grandchildren? I don't understand this.
I've said it before. I will say it again. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Mayorkas, and everybody that stood by silently and didn't lift a finger to secure our border, as far as I'm concerned, they all have blood on their hands. And by the way, they did not have the courage to even call these families, Lake and Riley's family. They didn't have the courage to call Jocelyn Ungary's family, or, in this case, Rachel Morin's mother. Why not? And why didn't they speak out about Biden's open borders? Why didn't they seem to have even the slightest interest in honoring Rachel Morin or any of the other victims of illegal immigration? Senator Van Hollen needs to sit down or shut up, or maybe he could just stay in El Salvador. To be honest, Van Hollen should be thanking President Trump for doing something he himself never had the courage to do, protecting the people, the moms and dads, the sons and daughters of children in Maryland, and deporting illegal immigrants who never should be in our country at all. If they want to come in our country, come in legally. We'll have a lot more on this in just a moment with Karoline Leavitt. Joining us now first is the U.S. Attorney General. Pam Bondi is with us. Pam, great to see you. I want to put up on the screen a timeline because there seems to be, in the media especially, a narrative that is completely and totally and utterly false regarding, quote, Mr. Garcia, and not one but 2 courts actually said he was an MS-13 gang member and identified him as such. Can you please explain what you know about him?
Yeah, Sean, factually, this is an extremely disturbing case. And as a career prosecutor, it is even more disturbing. Every American tonight should be thanking Donald Trump for making America safer by getting this guy out of our country. I'm going to call him a terrorist because he has been designated as a member of a terrorist organization. So this illegal alien terrorist came into our country illegally in March of 2012. We know that because he admitted that when he was stopped in 2019 by the anti-gang squad. They stopped him at a Home Depot with 3 other members. And here's what's very important. He was wearing a sweatshirt with gang insignia on it. The guy he was with, another MS-13 known member, had a tattoo with very similar insignia on it. ICE declared him as a member of MS-13. The police officers, the gang unit, declared him as a member of MS-13, and also they independently went to a reliable, confidential informant who said not only is he a member of MS-13, he gave them the clique, the Westerns, and he was called a Chiqueo, which is one of the higher-ranking MS-13 members. So they rightfully detained him, rightfully. An immigration judge agreed. An appellate immigration judge agreed. Now, here's where it gets even more frightening. In 2021, his girlfriend previously, his wife at the time, who he had married in jail after he'd gotten numerous tickets, didn't show up for court. He marries her in jail. She has a baby with him. And as a career domestic violence prosecutor, too, I know it takes a lot for any woman to come into court and say they're a victim of domestic violence. This woman came into court twice, getting a restraining order against him, saying it's horrific. He had beaten her. He had punched her in the eye. He had ripped her clothes off. What causes a young mother to do this? Her child was with her. She talked about her child in the petition for an injunction for safety. Ultimately, she didn't show up for court. That's your typical domestic violence victim. But this victim was even braver because she was married to one of the top MS-13 members who was illegally in our country and a terrorist. So now
Can you explain?
he gets...
Oh, go ahead.
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry, Pam.
Sean.
Finish. No. You finish.
So, Sean, he, under Donald Trump's incredible plan to get these alien enemies, these terrorists, out of our country, he is deported. He is deported back to where he came from, El Salvador. He is sitting in a prison, and every American should be thanking President Trump tonight, and every liberal journalist who has called him a Maryland man and saying he was rightfully in this country should be apologizing tonight to President Trump.
Well, I'm trying to understand that part, and I'm looking at the timeline. I'm looking what the courts have said about him. I'm looking about what ICE has said about him. I'm looking about even though I'm having a hard time understanding why his wife is advocating for him to come back. Why is everybody saying he's a man from Maryland? What do you make of Senator Van Hollen and, you know, this performative art that he's involved in El Salvador, and of which he was unsuccessful today?
Well, America is safer because he is gone. Maryland is safer because he is gone. And that woman that he is married to and that child he had with her, they are safer tonight because he is out of our country and sitting in El Salvador where he belongs. These people are there saying because we needed to do the government needed to do one extra step, they're saying, of paperwork. Here's why. Because initially he claimed there was a rival gang. So he's saying he's a gang member. There's a rival gang in El Salvador, which no longer exists, by the way, that could have hurt him if he had gone back to El Salvador. So there was no ending for him, none, where he would end up staying in this country. And President Bukele made it crystal clear that he is not returning him to our country. Our only job legally was to facilitate it if, according to the Supreme Court, President Bukele wanted him to come back to our country, and he does not want him back, and we do not want him back in our country.
Yeah. All right. Attorney General Pam Bondi, thank you for setting the record straight. As always, we appreciate it. Now, unfortunately, Chris Van Hollen is not the only dishonest Democrat now feigning moral outrage over an illegal immigrant while all but ignoring the victims of illegal immigration. According to the Media Research Center, ABC, CBS, NBC, they spent 0 minutes on the trial for Rachel Morin's killer. At the same time, they spent over an hour covering the illegal immigrant that was deported to El Salvador. Does that make sense? The state-run legacy media mob likes to call him a Maryland man, as we've been telling you, even though he's not from Maryland, has no right to be in Maryland, and has been deported back to his home country. Take a look.
Exactly 1 month ago, the Trump administration abducted and imprisoned a Maryland man named Kilmar Abrego Garcia. They flew him and hundreds of other men to a prison in El Salvador.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man.
A Maryland man.
Maryland man.
The growing calls to return the Maryland man.
That Maryland man.
The Maryland man. That fate of that Maryland man. In the case of a Maryland father, the wrongful deportation of a Maryland man to El Salvador.
He is, of course, the Maryland man now held in El Salvador's mega prison.
Now, just imagine if I snuck into any country, let's pick Canada, for example, and while getting deported, everyone referred to me as that Canadian man, that Montreal man. This is the literal definition of fake news, or as they like to call it, misinformation, or if you prefer, a cheap fake. Anyway, here now with reaction, it is time for the Hannity press briefing with White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt. Boy, very powerful. Well, I think actually all of your press briefings are pretty powerful because I love watching the liberal media melt and bubble and fizz like Alka-Seltzer and water, but it was powerful. We had Patty, Rachel's mom, on this show last night, and what she said at that podium today was extremely powerful, which is why I assume you decided, you know what, that's enough for today. I think that speaks for itself. What was that like for you?
It was incredibly difficult, Sean, to stand beside Patty Morin, a mother who has experienced every mother's worst nightmare. And it was incredibly powerful to listen to her words because they are the truth, the brutal truth about what happened to her beautiful daughter at the hands of a heinous monster who should have never been allowed into our country in the first place. And Patty was so courageous and brave to share the gruesome details about her daughter's murder. And thank goodness our justice system convicted this illegal alien criminal murderer of the heinous killing of Patty's daughter. And I was so honored to stand beside her today. And it speaks to just she also spoke to just the lack of common sense by today's modern day Democrat Party, because you have a senator in Maryland who is supposed to serve his constituents, including Patty Morin and Rachel Morin and their family. And instead, he is spending more time wasting taxpayer dollars flying to a foreign country in an attempt to bring back an illegal criminal alien foreign terrorist gang member than he ever gave the time to Patty Morin and her mourning family over the loss of his constituent. This shows you how deranged the modern day Democrat Party has truly become. And we are incredibly grateful for Patty for her willingness and her request to share her story at the White House briefing room today.
Well, we see that they're silent when we see these acts of domestic terrorism against Tesla. We see that the Democratic Party is now the party of championing the right of men to play women's sports, putting the rights of illegals over the safety of Americans, screaming bloody murder, and that we're experiencing a constitutional crisis if we cut out waste, fraud, and abuse and corruption. That is the party that they now represent. That's fine if that's where they want to be. Do we have an update? I know that there was discussions today regarding trade and tariffs with Japan. I expect that probably a lot of countries are going to be signing deals in the days and weeks ahead. Can you update us?
I don't have an update for you. I actually just left a dinner with the president and Patty Morin and some great faith leaders in celebration of Holy Week. So I haven't checked in with our Secretary of Treasury or Jamison Greer, our United States Trade Ambassador, yet. However, I did run into the Secretary of Treasury, and he told me the meetings were productive and they were moving along, and they were here for quite some time. And the president met directly with one of the trade representatives from Japan because the president wants to be involved in these negotiations and these talks. And I think it speaks volumes about the number of countries we have seen come to the table, reaching out to this administration to cut deals. It's because the entire world knows they need to do business with the United States of America. And China knows that too, Sean. And as President Trump directed me to say yesterday, it remains true tonight. The ball is in China's court. They need to do business with the United States. They need the best thing on the face of the planet, and that is the American consumer. And we are the best place in the world to do business. And the rest of the world knows that, and that's why Japan was here today to negotiate a trade deal.
It's kind of a simple concept. If a country wants free and fair trade, or if they want to put tariffs on us, they'll have reciprocal tariffs. It doesn't seem that complicated. And if they're going to put barriers up to products being sold in their country, we'll do the same back to them. If they don't want to do it, then it'll be really free and fair trade. And that would be something that has not happened in our country in, what, 50 years, 60 years? Anyway, Karoline Leavitt, we appreciate you being with us. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.